now and GarageBand in. Hold on.
Oh, geez. Come on.
All right, GarageBand. 3, 2, 1, go.
Recording.
Recording.
Whenever you're ready.
Welcome back to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. My name is Kyle Bryant. I am sharing the airwaves today with Sean Baumstark.
Here I am.
And Sean, we are coming to the end of season 2 of the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. Season 1 was like 2 years long, I think. So,
Yep.
But the reason that we are doing seasons now is because between seasons, we're going to make some progress, such as line up some interviews and have them ready for next season. And we've got some good ones lined up so far. Why don't you tell us about one that relates to what we talked about last time?
Yeah, at the beginning of the year, we shared a list of some, high-profile people we'd love to have. And last week I'd mentioned that I had finally reached out to that young man, Gabe Adams. I first saw him on a Maury Povich episode, and it's a young man who was born without arms, no legs, but he dances, and he's got such a joy for life at the age of, I don't know, roughly 20 years old. Anyway, I finally reached out to him. I said, hey, man, would you be open? He responded with, absolutely, I'd love to. So, to be fair, we haven't worked out details yet, but we are moving in the right direction, and he's agreed to come on the show. So
Nice.
We'll have that.
The ball's in our court, huh?
Season 3. It is.
Awesome. That's cool. And we have some other really great interviews lined up for season 3 as well that we're going to be doing hopefully in like January or something, and kind of getting those ready for the next season. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Plus, yeah. Sorry. I don't know what I was going to say. It's pointless.
So, Sean, tell us, I think you have a travel story or something from when you were traveling back?
Yeah, that's probably why I was so confused roughly for a minute there. I'm so angry about my travel experience. Not really, but I haven't told you the story. I just told you I had an experience that I wanted to talk about, and it involves LAX, which I'm sure the whole world knows LAX, kind of like they probably do Heathrow and O'Hare, right? They're just major international airports, and that's everybody goes there at least once probably in their life. Okay, LAX is massive, like most big airports. It's just a maze, and it's very, I'm sure to some, just organized chaos, right? It's very crazy. Well, my issue actually, I don't think is so much to do with the LAX as it is the airline. So as you know, Kyle, I hurt myself not so long ago, and to travel home from the East Coast, I was using a wheelchair, and my mother was traveling with me to help me with all the luggage and little pieces that I was, having to get used to. Brand new to the world of adaptive equipment to an extent. Okay, so we go to the counter, right? The ticket counter to check our luggage. And we're at a gate that requires a shuttle. Like, you can't just walk to this gate. So the ticket agent was like, oh, you're a gate, whatever. You're going to have to go to gate A, and then they'll put you on a bus and basically shuttle you out to the middle of the tarmac somewhere. A shuttle, like a random terminal you can't easily access.
Yeah, and LAX is huge. Oh wait, massive. No, you're at Philly, right?
No, this is LAX.
Oh, okay, got it.
This was, flown from Philly to LA and then LA to Sacramento for a couple days. Okay. So she is like, oh, okay, you're going to have to go to gate A. They'll shuttle you to gate B. And I'm making up the letters, but you get the idea. So it seemed like she was really informative. Well, we go to gate A after getting through TSA and all that jazz. There's no um, active gate agent there, so we kind of look around. We find a random airport employee, and we ask them, "Hey, we need to go to gate B. We need a shuttle. How do I get to the shuttle?" And they go, "Well, if you go that way, you're not going to be able to get on. It's stairs only. So you're going to have to go a little further that way, get on the elevator, go down, walk this way, left, right, right, all these stupid directions." And I'm like, okay. So in my head, why did the gate agent not tell me that, right? Or the ticketing agent?
Yeah.
Anyway, we go down the elevator. Now we're in some random basement. Can't see a thing, but, outside the walls. You can tell we're underground. So I'm like, we're not going to be able to get on a bus down here. So we find another employee, airport staff, and she asked the radio for help. And 5 minutes later of conversing, I was told to walk to a completely different terminal.
Oh,
I would
man.
have to walk all the way over to Terminal 4. We were at 5. And just to paint a picture, at a place like LAX, Terminal 4 and 5 are not right next door to each other like in city blocks. They're like a mile and a half apart, right?
That might not even be an exaggeration.
Right? Anyway, long story. It's way too long. I walked away thinking, why did the ticketing agent not give me those details? Like, I was so frustrated with that airline staffer at the ticket counter. Like, help me out. Like, why did you send me to the wrong place? And it wasn't like I was hiding my wheelchair. Like, she was bending over talking to me. It was plain as day. I was in the wheelchair. So I just didn't understand why that wasn't made
apparent.
Yeah, way in the beginning, long before I was shuffling all over with all of our carry-on and anyway. That's my dumb story, and I'm unhappy about it.
my question is, did they ask you, would you like someone to escort you?
Nope.
Oh, man. See, that's the key. I feel like sometimes, especially when I'm in like a foreign country, not in a huge airport, I'm like, all right, just take me where you need to, because I don't know where the elevators and the whatever are,
Yep.
So
we eventually, I had asked, because once I said walk to another terminal, what I was afraid of was walk into that next terminal and it still not be in the right place. So I'm like, okay, obviously not everybody is in the know here. So at that point I said, well, can you just find me an escort, somebody that can push? So they got help, and that next terminal was the answer, but that would have been frustrating had I wheeled and walked all that way just to find out still not right. So, yeah.
Hooray.
Moral of the story, get help.
Yeah, there you go. Get good help. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. All right, what's new in your world, Kyle? I know recently we've talked a lot about me and being in the hospital and all that, but what about you? What have you been up to?
So last episode I talked about the International Ataxia Research Conference, and I was there for a few days, and it was incredible. But one of the conversations that sticks with me from that conference had nothing to do with research or ataxia or anything. I was talking to somebody.
What was her name? No, I'm just kidding. That's a stupid joke.
I was talking to somebody, and we were just talking about, we were talking about exercise, I think. And I was just saying how, I haven't really been on top of it lately. And he was like, well, you know what? I heard there's 5 things you can concentrate on in life. Family, work, friends, exercise, and diet. And you only get 2. And so he's like, what are your 2? And I had to think for a little while, and I think mine 2 at the moment are probably work and family, and I think I usually need to do a little better on the family thing, but anyway, that, just introducing a topic like that, like, I didn't expect to have that conversation, right? But I feel like if you're looking for those little nuggets of either wisdom or just things that make you think,
Sure.
it's always valuable to be looking for those things, no matter where they might show up in your life.
That's true.
So
It sounds like a fun little conversation that just challenges
right,
your thought process, like
right,
what your priorities are, and it makes me think of that the concept or the principle of opportunity cost. All five of the things you mentioned are important, but I think anybody can agree you can't always give your best to every single one every single time. So
right,
if you're gonna cut back on exercise, what gets the benefit? Or if you're gonna spend more time with family, what's that gonna cost you in terms of career or
yep.
your exercise or even your health? Who knows? I don't know. So I like that. That's a good way to think through maybe what you're up against every day, or how life is unfolding for us. I like it.
You know what? And even maybe the five are different sometimes, right? But it's good to just think about what the important things are in your life and what you're focusing on and not giving enough attention to. So yeah, I liked it.
So if your things right now are family, you said, and work,
right?
Of your five, none of those are mine. So I'm not working right now. I can't really exercise. Well, I guess exercise would be mine for physical therapy. So I'm gonna have to pick just one for now.
All right. What about diet though? You could, I don't know. That's a tough one though too, because you can't drive, right?
No, I can't drive yet, and I'm kind of stuck with whatever either people bring me, what I can, put together myself, which is not exciting, or what I can get Uber Eats or somebody to deliver.
Yeah. Or
I would.
Have you ever done? Go ahead. What? Sorry.
I'm just saying, I would add rest.
Man, you know what?
And I think that's pretty important.
That actually is the right one, because it's not diet. I put in diet because I couldn't. I was like, what is the fifth one? But no, it's sleep.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Okay, then definitely exercise in form of PT and sleep are my two important ones right now.
Okay, man, I'm really glad we had this conversation.
Am I ever? And I'll maybe for our listeners, if you can review that list and share. We try to post on Instagram and Facebook at the very least pretty regularly. Comment on one of those. What are your top five right now? Like Cal said, we know they change, but going into the holiday season for 2019, what are your top two?
I like it. All right, Sean, what has been on your mind? And you know what? Actually, can you give us a little update on your injury, maybe?
Yeah, and you know what? I'm really glad you asked it that way, because what's the latest in my recovery is actually kind of birthed the idea of our conversation that we're getting into. So, as everybody knows, I'm home and resting, and I'm not working, and I'm just doing some in-home PD and trying to nurse my broken femur back to health, right? Well, the other day, I was able to go out with some friends. Being gone for a month and not working right now has given me a lot of opportunity for a lot of friends and family to come visit, whether it's for an hour or, friends come over and do a couple things around my apartment for me. So anyway, one day I had planned lunch with a few coworkers. They come over and we drive to a restaurant not too far from my place, and we got to park right by the front door. Well, getting there, and parking, we had taken my walker and the wheelchair. And because I hadn't walked that day or even around my place, I said, you know what, we're so close to the door. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not very busy. Let me just take the walker. I'll walk in with the walker. Well, everything's going fine for the first 10, 12 steps. And for some reason, my mind got distracted. I think I allowed myself to focus on some people walking around and the conversation we were all having. And I literally tripped over my own feet. I
Jeez.
had either not picked up a leg far enough or maybe I clipped my feet, you know?
Yeah, right. Oh,
Um,
man.
and and I fell, which is not what you want to do when you're in this state, right?
Right.
Thankfully, I fell, somewhat gracefully, and I fell on the opposite side of the injury. So it wasn't. It could have been a whole lot worse. But what
Right.
I'm thinking is, when I began to lose balance, your body reacts and you tense up. So
Oh,
I'm
my
pretty
gosh, yeah.
confident I had slammed my right foot down really hard to try to
Yeah.
keep myself up, and that's where the pain
Yeah.
is coming from, in my opinion. So after falling, of course, laid there for a little bit and um, kind of assessed: did I cause more injury? Did I do any damage, or is it
Yeah.
just soreness? Thankfully, it's just a matter of being sore, and I didn't cause any damage. But
Oh,
of course, post this experience, I began thinking about a column I had written recently: stubbornness versus determination. And I began to challenge or question myself: was I being stubborn because I didn't want to deal with the wheelchair?
right.
Or was I being determined to actually exercise my legs a little bit?
Yeah.
And I can't answer that 100% with certainty, but I,
Right.
I am convinced that what I did was unsafe. So I kind of lean towards being stubborn in that moment of, I don't need the vulture. Let's just use the walker. So that's kind of
Yeah.
what I thought we'd kind of focus the conversation on, is being able to, in a safe way or a rewarding way, identify the difference of us being stubborn or us being determined in the actions we take on a regular basis.
Well, I think, Sean, first of all, that's a rough situation, man. I understand that it's been pretty painful and you've been feeling pains that
Mm.
had gone away for a few weeks, right? And so it feels like a bit of a setback. And
Oh, totally.
I mean,
It's
I'm just
heartbreaking.
reiterating this, I guess, for our listeners so they know what's going on. But I think also with your introduction of that topic, there's a lot there, man.
Mm.
Because I feel like, especially people with a disability or Friedrich's ataxia or whatever it is, a challenge, you know, I feel like sometimes stubbornness can be glorified. You know, like, oh, I'm so stubborn because like I want to, get things done, but maybe stubbornness, the way I think maybe the way we define it is what makes it, right. Like
Mm.
stubbornness could hold us back from our goals because we're so stubborn about getting this short-sighted thing that sometimes we lose sight of the long-term goal. Is that kind of what
Yeah.
the thought
Well,
is?
yeah, and just hearing you present it that way, I've started to think, how many times in life, whether it's you or me or any of our listeners, can we look back to a situation where we thought the result we wanted was going to be the best, and we were so stubborn in pursuing that maybe we missed out on something bigger and something better, or
Absolutely.
something that should have been more important than what it was.
Yeah, I think it's important to like put all these things in context, right? Like in your situation, um, you know, the long-term goal obviously is to get better and get back to how you were or even better, right?
Yeah.
And so what serves that purpose? Is it walking there to your restaurant right now, or maybe using a wheelchair and being in a position to accomplish more tomorrow?
Yeah, totally.
And I really don't mean to rub this in, but like I'm just playing off the story, So yeah,
I think it's important to, everybody's gonna have to identify this for themselves. Like, I don't think we can look to a dictionary term or a principle in a book. It's everybody's gonna have to figure out what's best for them, and are they being, because what might be stubborn for Kyle is a form of determination for Sean.
Yep.
Or vice versa.
That's a good point.
So I wonder how we can do that and do it effectively. So I'm gonna ask you a question I haven't even thought about, so forgive me. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Yeah.
But let's look at, maybe it's a friendship or something important in your life. Kyle, do you have any idea how you would identify, okay, am I being stubborn here and should I maybe back off? Or am I being determined and should I keep moving forward? Do you have any idea how one might work through that?
Well, the thing that comes to my head is like, all right, let's start with the ultimate goal. Like, what is your purpose in life? Holy cow. Like, that's pretty big and broad, right? But maybe start there, and if you can identify or just take a stab at that a little bit. Does this thing that you're holding on to, whatever it is, does it serve that purpose, or does it take away from reaching that end goal?
Yeah.
So I think it's really difficult. Obviously, purpose in life is like the most elusive thing ever, right? And the hardest thing to identify. But I think maybe that's a good exercise to just try to nail that down, right?
Yeah, I think hearing you say it that way, I'm thinking of a question it might be smart to ask ourselves. If I'm keeping the ultimate goal or the end game in mind, if I stay on the path I'm on in this moment, is it going to help me achieve it, or will it cause damage? And so I think the other question that I would maybe think about for myself is, can I still pursue that goal later? Or can I still achieve that goal in a different way?
Right.
Because granted, if we go back to the restaurant conversation or walking into the restaurant, the ultimate goal is to get to a point where I don't need a wheelchair or a walker anymore, right?
Right.
But had I chose to use the wheelchair, would that have made that ultimate goal unachievable? I'm going to have to say no. Maybe it would have delayed it. Maybe not. But I still could have walked, a month from now. I don't know, am I making sense? If I'm being stubborn, I might accidentally or unintentionally eliminate the ability to achieve something.
Yeah,
but if I'm really careful and I can identify it as, okay, maybe I can rest or take my focus off, and still achieve it later, maybe that's a safe way to consider it. And I don't even know if I'm making sense.
Yeah,
right now,
no, so. I think you are, and I mean it's just a matter of prioritizing, the end goal that you could achieve later over the immediacy of whatever you're looking at in the moment. That might be tugging on your emotions, and maybe that's part of it, is like separating emotions and immediate emotions from like long-term objective goal and remaining objective. So another example that I was thinking about is White Mountain.
Yeah.
When we were on the mountain, the whole day, like, one of the only things that was going through everyone's mind is like, okay, are we going to make it? And, do we press on? If it takes us 3 more hours, all right, it's going to be 5 o'clock. It'll start getting cold around 6:30 or whatever. And then we're up at 13,000 feet and it's 25 degrees and it's dark out. All right, now that's dangerous. So do we turn around now? Or, and in that case, maybe stubbornness pushes you a little too far, right? Ultimately,
Sure.
and it gets you in real, like, life-threatening danger.
Sure.
Ultimately, I know we made the right decision, but, that's something that we battled with all day. So I just bring that up as another example of, something that came into my mind the last few days as I was thinking about this.
And I thought the same thing too. It's so easy to tie it into White Mountain because you're right. There was a point where a decision had to be made, and I think going back to the principle of you just said, if we can remain objective, you're probably safe. So looking back on it, okay, we remained objective in terms of the ultimate goal was reaching the summit, but we still had an amazing trip. And if we're just being objective about it, we got further than we ever got, and we learned more than we ever could have.
And nobody got hurt.
Without. Yeah, exactly. And everybody's safe, and everybody returned home 100%. But then I also think of this principle of, can I achieve that goal later?
Yeah.
And of course, in that regard, we can. We can always go back and achieve it. But had we been, quote unquote, stubborn and pursued beyond what we knew was risky, we may have been in a place where going back later wasn't an option, or at least jeopardize some things that may have been important to us.
Well, and you know what I think about too is, like, where is that line? I mean, you have to figure that out for yourself, right? Is there a chance that we could have made it somehow, some way? Sure, all right. Who knows how big that chance was? And we're exposing ourselves to a lot of danger by trying to find that point, like towing that line, And so I think in every situation, you got to just keep that in mind. Like, I don't know. I think maybe that's part of what eats at both of us, right? In the White Mountain situation is, if we pushed a little harder, would we have made it, or would we have just exposed ourselves to a lot more danger? And I think the answer is danger, but that's kind of one of the things that I think comes into play.
Yeah, it's hard for me to think about. Grant, I think you're right. We could have gone the way of a little bit more danger. But of course, hindsight is 2020, and sometimes I think, man, if we just would have woken up a little bit earlier, had we not stopped for that one beef jerky break time, and of course, that's a dangerous game because then you never know what kind of other things you may have run into, in terms of, had we gotten up a little bit earlier, would we have run into a mountain lion? It's possible, little things like that.
One thing affects like 100 other things, right?
Totally.
So
and I think,
go ahead.
Well, another thing you said what there was, they can be very similar, right? And that's kind of the point of the column I wrote a couple of weeks ago. The difference between being stubborn and being determined is very, very minimal, in my opinion. It's a thin line. That might be hard to identify, but really easy to cross.
Yep, exactly. So one thing I was thinking about, after establishing this concept, like we have done in the last few minutes so effectively, what I think part of the equation is what you do in your mind after the fact, like after White Mountain or after the fall at the restaurant, reconciling it and not letting it defeat you and only letting it fuel your fire to get up and go hard next time, right?
Yeah. I would. What comes to mind, of course, is this practice of evaluation and looking at the scenario and then thinking about how you can do it differently in the future. There might be 100 other ways to tackle such a setback, but I'm just thinking like with White Mountain or with Race Across America or our team determinants throws together a team to run an event called Reno Tahoe Odyssey, and we messed that up earlier this year. So in all these different cases, I think back and I look at, okay, what could I do differently tomorrow or next time that would have made this outcome more ideal?
Right, yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question or...
Yeah, no, I think it adds to it for sure, because if you don't learn from it and it doesn't take you forward, then it's a total loss, right? Like, it was a terrible situation, or it was a not ideal situation, and if you learn from it and help it inform your next approach, then it's not a total loss. But if you don't, then you can turn it into a loss, right?
Yeah, and I would argue that's probably stubbornness.
Yep.
Like if you're not thinking of, changing your mind or your approach or even being objective in any way, shape, or form, then I would label that as being stubborn, because all you have in mind is the end result, and you're maybe not really contemplating better, safer, efficient ways to achieve that result.
I agree.
So,
wow, dude. This, like, the first time I read your column, by the way, if you want to read Sean's column and this post specifically, go to friedrichsataxianews.com. Look for the column called No Good Excuse. And what's the title of this one? Stubbornness.
This one,
go ahead.
Yeah, the actual title of Stubbornness is Dangerously Close to Determination.
So
I think
when you sent this to me and I first read it, I was like, all right, like, whatever. It's a good concept, a good post. And I started thinking about it. And, like, I thought about it so much over the last 3 days. Like, it's a really deep, just from this conversation, I feel like we could talk for, another hour and a half just about this. So I really like the topic for sure.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the post, and I'm glad we could hash into it a little more. Sometimes I feel like an idea might come to mind, and I write about it, and I feel good about it. But it's conversations like this that challenge me to maybe dig a little deeper or even change my opinion. Like maybe when I wrote something, it was very narrow line of thinking. So I appreciate that you're willing to chat about it. So nice.
Man. Awesome. Yeah. Well, Sean, what do you think? Do you have any final words for the end of season 2?
Yes and no.
All right.
So, yeah, I guess all I would say for the end of the season is a huge thank you to our listeners that have, this is episode 95, and we're about to cross the 3-year mark. And I'm so grateful that people keep listening and commenting and liking and reviewing, hint, hint. So thank you for that. And I also want to say happy holidays as we get into Thanksgiving is this week, and then Christmas and New Year's right around the corner, and Hanukkah and whatever else we celebrate at this time of year. I want to say happy holidays to our listeners. We're so thankful for you, and we look forward to showing or doing a little more with the Two Disabled Dudes podcast and you after the new year.
Yeah, so everybody can stay tuned on social media, and we will be back. We absolutely love doing this, and we love that you're listening. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next season.
Absolutely.
All right. Stopping Skype. 3, 2.